Funny, isn't it? The things you say out loud, the words you spit into the air like they're nothing, like they'll just vanish. They don't. They linger. They twist. They crawl into the cracks of reality and start to build something. You thought it was just a thought, just a joke, just a moment of frustration. But no, words are seeds, and seeds don't ask your permission before they grow. One day you wake up, and there it is, the exact thing you spoke, staring back at you, mocking you, reminding you that your own mouth was the architect of your fate. Words are not just sounds. They're not just vibrations in the air that vanish when the echo dies. They stick. They crawl into places you don't see. You think you were just venting, just letting something out. But the universe isn't deaf. It isn't careless. It collects every syllable like a debt, and one day it shows up with the bill. That's why some of the things you say in anger, in pain, in weakness, they don't fade away. They build, they wait, they fester. And then, when you least expect it, they bloom right in front of you, and suddenly you remember you were the one who planted that seed with your own tongue. You don't get to pretend you didn't mean it, because the world doesn't care about intention. It cares about creation. You see, words are seeds, and seeds don't care if they were dropped by accident or on purpose. They don't care if you forgot about them the moment after. They will find soil. They will dig in, and they will grow into something you'll eventually have to face. That's why some people live in cages they built themselves, walls of curses. We both know it of negative promises, of self-hatred they spoke aloud without even realizing it. Every, I can't, every, I'll never, every, this always happens to me. Each of those is a brick, stacking higher, thicker, until suddenly they're trapped, and they don't even know the prison came from their own mouth. But it doesn't stop with yourself. You talk about others, too. You throw words like daggers at them, maybe not thinking much of it, maybe laughing about it, but those daggers don't just disappear. They land, they cut, and sometimes they shape the way a person sees themselves. You think you're just joking, just saying, but in truth you're feeding a beast, one that doesn't forget. And when the beast grows, it comes for you, because energy doesn't just leave. It circles back. Words circle back. That's why you should never underestimate the small things you mutter under your breath. The sighs of hopelessness, the angry declarations, they're not harmless. They're like contracts written in smoke. And just because you can't see the ink doesn't mean it's not binding. It's the reason why sometimes people feel like life is mocking them, like reality is playing tricks. But reality isn't laughing. It's just showing them exactly what they demanded, even if they didn't know they were demanding it. Think about it. How many times have you said, "I knew this would happen," and it did? Not because you were psychic, not because fate was cruel, but because you summoned it. You gave it form, you handed it permission. Your tongue is sharper than any blade, but instead of slicing through lies, you often slice yourself open without even noticing. And when the blood starts dripping, you're surprised, as if you weren't the one holding the knife the entire time. People call it coincidence. They call it bad luck. But luck is just the name we give to consequences we didn't want to own. The truth is much simpler and much harsher. What you said has a way of crawling back, of finding you, of proving you right. You become a prophet of your own downfall, or the author of your own victory, depending on what you let escape your mouth. That's the trick. Words don't vanish, they transform. And when they finally come true, you'll realize the cruelest part. You can't blame anyone else because it was always your voice echoing back at you. Every whisper carries weight, even the ones you think no one hears. The world is not as empty as you imagine. It's listening, always listening. You lean in close, mutter something under your breath, maybe in frustration, maybe in sarcasm, maybe as a joke, and you think it's gone, dissolved into thin air. But it's not. Whispers are heavier than screams because they come from a place you don't want anyone to see, a place you think is safe to let slip. And those words don't disappear. They sink like stones dropped into water, rippling out far beyond the moment you spoke them. You think secrets are safe when you keep them quiet. You believe that silence makes them harmless. But silence doesn't erase weight. It only buries it. And buried things don't die. They wait. The quiet words you told yourself when no one was around. I can't do it. I'm worthless. This will never change. They carve themselves deep inside you. They become the voice you hear even when you're not speaking. Whispers are tricky like that. They don't shout. They don't scare you into noticing. They just linger, until they turn into belief. And once you believe, reality bends to fit it. The dangerous part is you don't realize it while it's happening. You're so focused on the loud things, the insults, the shouts, the chaos, that you miss the power of the quiet confessions. They slip past your defenses because you don't take them seriously. Yet those are the ones that stick, the ones that shape the story. The loud threats of life might shake you, but the whispers you've repeated in the dark become the script you start to follow without even questioning. It's not just about what you whisper to yourself either. It's about what you let slip into the ears of others. A whisper of doubt planted in someone else's mind can ruin them more effectively than a scream ever could. Screams are easy to resist. They're obvious, they're crude. They make you push back. But a whisper, it sneaks in, sounding almost like truth. A quiet suggestion that maybe they're not good enough, maybe they'll fail, maybe no one cares. Once that seed is planted, it grows roots. And you don't even have to water it. They'll do it themselves. That's the cruelty of weight carried by whispers. They transfer their heaviness to whoever catches them. And don't think for a second that the universe is blind to whispers. No, whispers are the purest form of intention, stripped of performance, stripped of noise. They're raw. They come straight from your gut. So when you say them, it's like carving into stone, because you're not trying to impress anyone. You're not trying to win anything. You're confessing truth as you see it in that moment. And the world, it takes that confession as law. It starts arranging the pieces to prove you right. So what you whisper matters. Every muttered curse, every bitter sigh, every secret fear, it carries a weight heavier than you imagine. Words don't vanish just because you drop your voice. If anything, the softer they are, the deeper they cut, because no one else may hear them, but you do. The walls hear, the night hears, and reality itself has a strange way of bending down to catch them, to hold them, to remember them. And when they return to you, they don't come back as whispers. They come back as thunder. Reality bends to the sound you release. You think the world is some cold, fixed thing, solid like steel, but it's not. It's soft, fragile, malleable like clay, and every word you let out of your mouth leaves a mark on it. People think they're victims of circumstance, puppets pulled along by fate. No, no. They're just architects who don't realize they've been drawing with their tongue. You say, "I'll never make it," and suddenly the ground rearranges itself to trip you. You whisper, "I'm broken," and doors close that were waiting to open. The sound isn't just air, it's energy. And energy doesn't vanish. It shapes, it molds, it creates. You've seen it before. Someone speaks confidence even when they have nothing, and somehow things start moving for them. It's not magic, it's alignment. Their words push reality into submission, forcing it to adjust to the vibration they've set. And the reverse is true too. The ones who poison their world with constant defeat, they drown in it. Not because the world hates them, but because the world is obedient. It obeys the sound. It listens to the orders you didn't even know you were giving. Think about it. A child hears, "You're worthless," enough times, and they start living like it's true. Not because it was written in their blood, but because the words bent their sense of self until it matched. A man convinces himself he's cursed, and sure enough, every step he takes feels cursed. That's not coincidence. It's construction. He laid those bricks with his own tongue. Reality doesn't argue. It doesn't debate. It obeys. And maybe you think that's too much power for words. Maybe you laugh it off, say, "They're just sounds." But that's the trap, because sounds create worlds. A word starts wars. A sentence topples kings. A phrase sparks revolutions. Do you really think your small mutterings don't count? The only difference is scale, not effect. You may not shift nations, but you shift your life. Every single syllable is a hammer, and you've been swinging it without even realizing what you're building or destroying. The cruel joke is how unconscious it all is. You don't notice the little things you say under your breath, but the universe does. You dismiss them as throwaway lines, but they're seeds, and the soil never refuses a seed, whether it's rotten or pure. The soil doesn't care. It takes it, it grows it. And one day you wake up surrounded by the harvest of your own careless voice. You choke on the weeds you planted, and then you curse the ground for betraying you. But it didn't betray you, it obeyed you. The bending doesn't always happen instantly. That's why people doubt it. You spit something into the air, and nothing shifts right away. So you convince yourself it was harmless. But reality is patient. It bends slow, like a tree growing toward the light. You don't see the movement until one day the tree is towering over you, its roots wrapped around your ankles, and you wonder how it got there. You forget that years ago, you whispered it into existence. Every sound you release is an invitation, an instruction, a declaration. The question is, what are you instructing reality to do? Most people don't realize they're commanding their own destruction. They beg the universe for disaster without even knowing it. And when disaster arrives, they scream about how unfair it is. But fairness has nothing to do with it. You asked, you shaped, you bent. Reality just bowed its head and followed. Promises and threats both demand payment. You can't spit something into the world and expect it to vanish into thin air. That's the illusion people love to comfort themselves with. The idea that their words are just noises, echoes that fade away. But echoes don't fade, they multiply. They linger in corners you can't see, and eventually they come crawling back, demanding what's owed. A promise isn't a suggestion, it's a debt. A threat isn't just anger, it's a contract. The moment the words leave your lips, something in the universe takes note, signs its name, and stamps the seal. Payment is expected, and payment always comes. Look around, and you'll see it everywhere. Someone swears they'll protect. They'll stay, they'll never change. And then, when they break it, reality itself hunts them down. The world doesn't let you cheat. It doesn't matter if the person you promised forgot, because the fabric of things didn't. That oath lives, breathes, sharpens itself, and waits for its turn. You said it, and now it owns you. Every promise you make ties a rope around your neck, and whether you keep it or not, the rope tightens. If you fulfill it, the rope drags you along, forcing you to stand by your word. If you break it, the rope strangles you from the shadows. Either way, you pay.